Yeah, it's Sonya Julia. I think the first thing was my sister, 3 years older than me, was into all the Bowie stuff and everything, and then she started getting into the punk music. So I already had that, a little bit of that going on at the house. And then with the woodcraft folk that I was involved in with my friend Debbie, we went up to one of the international camps in the Malvern Hills in about, oh my God, what year was that? About, I can't remember, 1979, 80, probably around there. I was still at school, and we met up with somebody that I'd met the year before at a camp, and he was really punky. His name was Alan, and she fell in love with him. He fell in love with her. She was 14. He was a bit older, and that was it. Then we were just all best mates, and he lived in Wigan. We obviously lived in Milton Keynes in Bletchley, and he used to come down and bring all his music down. We'd go and stay up there because he was a punk DJ in a Trucks nightclub, which was a punk nightclub, and the disco, he ran it from an actual truck that was in the club, and we was up there at the weekends, and that's how I kind of got into it, and then met loads of friends and just evolved from there. Yeah, I wasn't a full-on sort of punk. I was kind of a bit of a tomboy anyway, so I was kind of jeans, maybe ripped jeans. Used to sometimes spray bleach at the syringe and stuff, and scruffy t-shirts. I weren't one of them punks that kind of went out and bought a lot of made clothes that I found were quite expensive from London and all of that. I kind of just do my own stuff really. And yeah, hair was started off just cutting it off short and spiky, then it was the bleach, and then it was Catwoman hairstyle, which my friend Alison Bancroft had to sort out for me because Mark Mason fucked it up. Basically, Catwoman, she came from the Rock and Roll Swindle, which was obviously the Sex Pistols and Malcolm McLaren's film, and basically she had like a skinhead but with 2 little wings at the side. They're like wing bits, they're like cat's ears sticking up. So it was like that really, which was always a bugger to get up with hairspray and soap and stuff. I tried gel, but the thing that would actually keep it up more was hairspray, but they did used to flop, and in the end I had to come off. Yeah, I had my nose pierced. Alison pierced my nose one day, and well, it used to just pierce my own ears, so that sort of thing, but nothing over the top. Maybe a dog collar. Yeah, and I never had a pair of DMs, could never afford them, always wore monkey boots. Good old Converse back in the day when they were about £2 off Bletchley Market. We just made do with whatever we had really. I had a few friends from school that were punks, I used to hang out with them, but kind of in my last year at school, I used to go around Alison and Dave's flat in Bletchley. It was one of my regular haunts. Melrose Flats to a girl called Lindy, and with Mark Mason and Steve Martin and Conrad and loads of people like that. But then as for the music, and people used to hang around my house as well. It's like a regular place for people to come round and chill out and listen to music and that. But the music venues were vast really. We were spoilt really because we had the Compass Club in Bletchley, the Joint and Pear Tree Bridge, and that's when I started expanding out and meeting more people, because people were coming into Milton Keynes, and then it was a bigger community of punks and people that were into music that would meet up. And we had Wolfton Campus, not the Joint, God, what was that called? The Pits. Where else was there? I'm sure there was other venues. I used to go over to Aylesbury Friars quite a lot, Dunstable. Sometimes I venture down to London to go. There's loads of little venues down there, putting punk bands, really good scenes, and Crawford Arms in Wolverton. I think the Queen Vic as well had a place there for a while. So there's lots of little local places putting on. I think, and they started the festivals at the Campbell Park, Global Day, and the thing with the music, it was more of about a movement as well. It was about anti-war, anti-violence. A lot of local bands, but then there were other bands coming in to Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes was growing, and other bands were coming in from different areas and playing. And I used to see loads of the local bands, but then would go out as well to Aylesbury and different places to see, and Wigan and wherever really, to go and see other bands, Manchester, London. Yeah, there was Ethnic Minority, Fictitious, and we just used to go and watch all of them really. At the city centre, we had Criminal Records up there where a lot of the punks used to hang out. We used to meet up there. Plus old Stevie was working in Virgin Records, so we used to go and see him up there as well, and he'd get a lot of good music in, punk music and stuff. And down in Bletchley there was it FL Moores, I think it was, the little corner shop. We used to go down there and go and get our singles for 50p, because a lot of the punk singles that little bands had made themselves, they kept the prices down and they sold them at reasonable prices, and they'd get them in at FL Moores for us. And they had little posters in, and they were really, really good. Plus Woolworths, sometimes you'd get some bargains in Woolies in Bletchley, and you'd get all your posters as well. And fanzines was a big thing back in the day. People do local fanzines. And I remember looking at loads of them. I can't remember what they were called. I stayed with my own sort of values and thoughts, I think. And yes, some people used to call them the plastic punks when people went off buying all the expensive gear and everything. It did start to change. I always had my own sort of political thoughts on things of anti-war. I used to go on all the marches and everything, and I liked that movement, the anti-vivisection on animals for the sake of women's beauty products and all that crap. The anti-war, what religion was doing to people at the time. I've got nothing against religion myself, but at the time it was a big thing of what people were following and how it was dividing people and causing wars and poverty. And so I liked that. I liked the songs with those messages. Yeah, I mean, I came from quite a political family anyway. My dad was a real lefty, a communist in fact. But so I already had that background, and we used to go off to all the different peace marches and do leafleting for the local peace campaigns. That was already in my heart. And so when I found this movement, it's like, wow, I really fit in here. And it didn't just feel like you were going to watching bands. You were part of a movement. You were part of a group of people who, even though people might have been scared of us because we all looked a bit crazy to other people, we were actually all the most peaceful people you could find on the planet, and still are. To this day, the old punks that I see, still got the same heart, still got the same values, still down to earth, decent, salt of the earth people. And that for me was the thing. It's just you felt like you were part of a big group of people that just wanted the same for everyone in the world. I don't think I've had anything really bad from the Joe Bloggs public. What did happen though was at a few of the gigs, especially going over to, that was another venue, the Roadmender in Northampton was a really good one for bands. But when we went over there, and Aylesbury Friars, there was quite a big skinhead movement then as well, who were obviously, some of them were like neo-Nazis, and they would chase the punks because they turned on the punks, they turned on the mods. And I can remember being chased by a load of skinheads from the Roadmender. With Mark Mason and Dave Paul. Dave Paul managed to, with his long legs, he was off. Mark jumped over a wall and hid, and that just left me running down the road, followed by a whole gang of bloody skinheads shouting at me because I was shitting myself. But when they caught up with me, they realised I was a girl and said, "Oh, it's a girl," and off they went. It's like, oh my god. So that sort of thing. And then in Aylesbury, same thing, like bully boy skinheads, I'm afraid to say. And yet in Milton Keynes, we had a big group of skinheads who kind of left us alone because they sort of seen us, we'd all grown up together, so they kind of left us alone. But I still hated what they stood for, but would kind of talk to them and just, acknowledge them, and they kind of let us get on with it. So I never had any trouble with skinheads in Milton Keynes, but obviously hated what they were about and their values and everything. But apart from that, never really had nothing really offensive from people. They just laughing at my crazy hair. My mum was a bit shocked because I had really, really long hair, but she was fine. And then the next time I came back, and it was Ferret and Gaynor had dyed my hair bleached blonde, but they'd kept it on for longer than I wanted, and they said, "No, you're not going," and locked me in the flat until it was bright white, and I went home with it bright white. And my mum's face, she nearly fell over. And then I sort of had my nose pierced and went for all the earrings, and it just, sort of full on punk. And she got used to it pretty quickly. They realised that there was a nice lot of people coming around, and they understood the scene and what we was about and everything, and just ended up, people used to just come around my house anyway and enjoy it, and they loved it. They loved having all the young people around, and no matter what they looked like. Kind of, they were very accepting. In fact, Stevie did move in with us for a little while because his mum was quite upset with him when he dyed his hair, so he moved in to the ambulance in our back garden. Only lasted one night and he went home the next day. He dyed his hair, and his mum was so upset because he'd dyed his hair and it was all punky and like crazy spiky, and she had got really upset, so he off he went. I don't know if she actually asked him to leave or whether he left, but they'd had a big row, and he came round very upset. And my mum, like she would always do, said, "Never mind, have a glass of sherry, a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich." And then he said, "Can I stay here?" So we said, yeah. I mean, he could have stayed in the house, but he chose to stay in the ambulance in the garden. My dad had an old ambulance that used to drive around everywhere as our van, you know. And then when it broke down, rather than take it to the scrapyard, he just reversed it down to the bottom of our garden, which was a huge garden. And that was when we were little, and it became like our ambulance. We used to pretend we were doctors and nurses and, you know, driving this ambulance. Because as we was older, it became a bit of a party piss-up house. And people just used to come around and chill in the garden, and we just all end up crashing in the ambulance. It wasn't glamorous. It was like an old tent, yeah. But no, it was fun. I think I moved on from punk because of who I met at the time, and then he was more into like the folk stuff and world music, and I sort of went off to those sort of festivals and things. But obviously, was punk and the values behind it has always been in my heart. I listen to some of the words now of the songs, and it's still the same. We're still fighting for the same cause.